I asked you to build me the perfect quarterback, whether it's a prospect or whatever, just like we're going to try to build ourselves the perfect NFL franchise quarterback. And I gave you 6 traits here. I gave you processing, anticipation, arm talent, athleticism, the clutch factor, and leadership ability. And so if you had to pull that trait from any NFL quarterback one at a time and kind of build this imaginary quarterback that we're going to do here, who are the guys you would pull these traits from one by one, starting with that
Yeah.
process?
So my question back to you is, can I tweak this a little bit? Can I?
The answer is always going to be yes to that.
Okay.
I love it. Let's
The
go.
reason I want to tweak it is, and I want to, and again, if you want me to do it your way initially, so I wanted to take out the top four from the equation because the
All
top
right.
four are the top four. And if you want to argue about them slotting, whatever, where you want to rank them, great. And if they've won a Super Bowl. So Staff, Rodgers, Hurts, and Russ. So I want to take the top four out of the equation because they're going to be in there no matter, and then the Super Bowl winners. And so that kind of leaves, and this goes back to the point that you made that I feel like I've been pushing for a while. I was like, yo, there's so many really, really high end quarterbacks in the league. So if I excluded the top four and then those Super Bowl winners, processing, I kind of went for a tie. I did Jaden Daniels and Geno. Jaden Daniels, that was my favorite trait of his at LSU. I think that carried over immediately into the NFL. It's one of the reasons why he played so fast. It's one of the reasons why I believe he had such remarkable fourth quarter performances. And I always have, not always, the last 4 or 5 years, I've just felt that way about Geno Smith. I'm like, man, he sees it so well and he throws it so good. So
I think
processing, I
Geno
would
Smith
put
is the
vote.
most underrated quarterback in the NFL right now. I
I
really
agree.
do, man. Thought that
And
was
like
such a
this is
great
like
move
3
by the
years
Raiders.
saying that. It's like 3 years of saying, I don't know if it's because he plays in the West Coast or whatever, or Seattle or um, but I think those two guys are in that category that at least for processing, we could put with those big four that I mentioned and some of those Super Bowl winners. Anticipation, I've always felt Tua just sees things before they happen so much faster than everybody else. It's now part of it, yes, is that scheme and system, but you got to go do it all the time. And he
Yeah,
does
right.
it all the time. And he cuts the ball loose so early. And I think that there's a trust level in what his eyes tell him that is pretty unique. And I think, you know, talking about some of the athleticism stuff, like that's one of the examples also of how a superhuman trait covers up for maybe some of the lack of superhuman traits. So,
Right. If you
um,
don't
it
have something, but you have something else in spades, it can end up with the same result, right?
100%. Arm talent would just be Herbert. Herbert's ability to just take a football and throw it is rare. It reminds me of Stafford in many ways. I guess the one gripe that I would have with him in that, and I felt that way a little bit at Oregon, and I don't know if he's totally perfected it, is sometimes it's too much. Sometimes I'm like, hey man, just a little bit of kiss, just a little bit of love on the ball. But his ability to just pick it up and throw it is in a class that is not a very populated class. Um, Athleticism, I would say Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix's athleticism last year was probably an under talked about story in the NFL last year, and some of their success. I think both designed runs weren't a huge part of it, but some of the scrambles that he had was wildly impressive. I said clutch Baker Mayfield. There are so many times where I'm like, "Yo, Baker's got it. They got a chance." I think that goes back to his moxie and his competitiveness, and then leadership. Jared Goff. I think it's pretty rare to take two different organizations in a short period of time to championship games and be cast off and you know fall on your face at the second place a little bit early on and now become one of the cat's meows. So that grouping I think it's not far off otherworldly from that other group.
Yeah, honestly, I love the way you took that too, because I feel like it'd be almost too easy to kind of cherry pick from the top of the heap here and just take some of those trades. But man, I would love to see the quarterback you just built. Like I would get into Madden or something and just create. Like I'll take
Yeah.
take all the
Yeah.
different traits and put them together. Maybe I can put a graphic together to see what that would be put together. But that, dude, I love that. Like you said, there's a couple of those guys that stood out to me when you talk about Bo Nix and the athleticism. It's I like his toughness as a runner too, where you're not just, you able to have some physicality. And Baker's the same way. Ask Bobby Wagner about Baker Mayfield out in the open field running people over. And Baker as a clutch player too. I think the one throw that I wish people would get more play out of was the touchdown he threw in the season finale last year against the Saints to Jalen McMillan down in like the front pylon on the right, where he's just rolling right in, kind of stepping up, and just an absolute laser of a throw in that moment where they're still trying to come back. I mean, the Saints were a bad team, but they're still trying to come back and win the division in that game. And he's just, the way he's grown over the last few years. I'm a Tampa guy, born and raised in Tampa, so obviously I follow them closely. But man, that's a fun quarterback. I'd love to watch that guy play. I think he could run my team for sure.
That's a number one pick at some point. I know this year's class is loaded coming out, so I don't know if any of those guys have all that, but that's a guy that, I think eventually some of those guys get into that different conversation, different narrative at some point over the next year or two.